The 2024 Italian Grand Prix saw Ferrari back on the top step at Monza for the first time in 5 years. A masterful race of tyre management from Charles Leclerc caught the McLarens unaware and unable to fully capitalise on their dominant qualifying result. However, the Papaya Garage continues to eat into Red Bull's championship lead, and Lando Norris again closed the gap to Max Verstappen. As Formula One leaves Europe behind, McLaren have just 8 races left to overthrow Red Bull. But the road out of Monza is at a standstill. So you might as well cool those brakes, relax, and chill with us for a while.
Nice paradise, like traffic paradise. What is this one?
Hello and welcome to Traffic Paradise Radio. I'm Uno, and joining me today are Kira
Hello.
and Immy.
Hi.
How is everyone doing today? What did you think of the race?
I am doing very, very well. Forza Ferrari, you know me, so this was great. Very happy.
Really happy for Charles for the win. But you know, as a Oscar biased person, little bit gutted for him. He looked very sort of downcast about it after the race, but overall pretty good, I think.
Yeah, there was that photo of him and Lando doing their like big team shot with the P2, P3 boards. And they just looked like they had come stone last. They looked so disappointed. The whole of like McLaren just seemed like, I don't know, getting second and third should be like a celebratory thing, but they were very down. And I think we know why, but we'll discuss a bit more during our episode today. Let's first of all start with naming our Paradise and Purgatory of the week. Kira, who is your Purgatory candidate for the week?
For my Purgatory candidate, I am sending Red Bull Racing, and I never thought I'd say this, but yeah, Red Bull Racing. They have had an absolutely atrocious weekend. I can't lie. Like, from the start, Max, notably, and also Perez, were struggling. And there's no good reason for it. They said that the car just isn't turning. They just were not competitive for the lead at the weekend, which honestly is pretty shocking and also really, really bad by Red Bull standards.
Red Bull just really had an awful weekend, even down to their pit stops, which is what they're supposed to be so good at. Max had a 6-second pit stop. That's the second time this season he's had a 6-second pit stop. It's really going downhill.
A lot of questions around what Red Bull are doing at the moment. So I think that's a very good candidate for Purgatory. We shall now move on to Immy. Who do you think should be sent to Purgatory this week?
I'm sending both Haas teammates to Purgatory. I think any time the cameras cut to an incident happening on the race, I was like, oh my god, it's a Haas. It's a Haas. First of all, Daniel forced Nico off the track, which isn't his fault, right? Granted. But then Nico torpedoed into Yuki and DNF'd him. And then Kevin collided with Pierre. It was non-stop. They were out of control. So I'm sending them to Purgatory.
Honestly, I'd agree with that. Haas aren't normally the types to do amazingly, but they're also not the type to cause two collisions almost, I guess. And yeah, quite dirty racing yesterday by their standards. And obviously, Kevin's penalty points, not great for him, so that's a race ban.
Yeah, a race ban for Kevin Magnussen. We will be discussing that in more detail later on. I think my views on Kevin Magnussen are quite well known. So I just think that, yeah, you get what you deserve, hey? but I think a very suitable candidate to be sent to purgatory. From my side, I am sending David Coulthard to purgatory. There was a comment he made this weekend during qualifying, which I just thought displayed a lack of knowledge around how Yuki Tsunoda has progressed over his career. And I want to sort of couch this in a bit of historical information. So in 2021, I believe it was, David Coulthard went on a podcast and, when asked about Yuki Tsunoda, said he's not made any eye contact with me at any point. It's like we don't even exist. And then made a derogatory joke about his height, completely misunderstanding that Japanese people in general don't make eye contact that much, especially with an older or authoritative figure, because it's considered disrespectful. So he's already misunderstanding Yuki on that level. And then he went on to say things like Yuki Tsunoda will never be a world champion, that he's should pack his little bag and go home now because he doesn't have the voice of a racing driver, and that he'd book a plane ticket now and get it nice and cheap because he won't be in Formula One beyond the end of next year. This was all in 2021, 2022. He's always had this sort of weird agenda against Yuki Tsunoda. And this weekend, when Yuki finished his qualifying lap and was kicked out, he said, "It's just so ridiculous. It's so difficult to drive. It's so ridiculous." And Coulthard comes on the commentary stream and he says, "We've had this conversation before, haven't we? About, yes, you've got a lot of passion, a lot of energy, frustration comes through, but there's not much an engineering team or mechanics can do with the balance is ridiculous. You know, they need a hint. Is it understeer? Is it oversteer? Is it bottoming? You've got to try and swallow that frustration and give succinct information." What does he think he's talking about in that situation? Because this is one radio message from Yuki Tsunoda at the end of his qualifying run. Yuki Tsunoda would have been given feedback throughout the whole weekend to his engineering team. But of course, David Coulthard's going to jump at the opportunity to have a dig at Yuki Tsunoda. And it's actually ridiculous because, with regards to Yuki Tsunoda's feedback, Laurent Mekies has said that he's in a good place right now. He's making very big steps in how he approaches races, and he's been stepping up. And the RB engineers had been saying that he had made a step forward this year. He's good technically as well. His feedback's been good. That's from Daniel Ricciardo. Mekis has said the step up he has made this year is simply phenomenal, and he keeps surprising us all race after race. There's no doubting his natural speed, to which he has now added a much more mature approach, and this combination makes him a very quick and consistent performer and a great team player. Yuki continues to learn every day, said Franz Tost. There are so many quotes from VCARB management and engineers about how Yuki constantly contributes well to the team. And so for David Coulthard to come out here and say that Yuki doesn't know how to give feedback to his engineers is quite frankly ridiculous. It's an uneducated, uninformed opinion. And for that, I'm sending him to purgatory.
I witnessed that as well, and I was taken aback by how disrespectful Coulthard was being. I mean, he said some stuff about other drivers before that has been questionable, but it gets to the point where you just begin to think that he has a personal agenda against Sonoda, and I don't think that's fair for a commentator.
I just really think there's a level of bias there that is just sort of disrespectful and unprofessional. Like, if you go back to the Canadian Grand Prix, you had Jacques Villeneuve, who maybe said a couple things about Daniel Ricciardo that you could see as being unnecessarily sort of mean and maybe biased in a way he doesn't like him, which I think is apparent. But you can let him off because he was doing a one-time sort of talking gig there, right? But David Coulthard is on the bill for like Channel 4 and F1 TV all the time. But I cannot find a single nice thing he's ever said about Yuki. It's all sort of mocking and negative every single bit. That's not how you should be as a commentator.
I know I'm very biased, towards Yuki Tsunoda. He's my favorite driver. I will defend him to the ends of the earth. But I also can appreciate when there's constructive criticism, you know? But this is just not it. This is not constructive. He's being, like, sorry, like, I'm just going to say it now. David Coulthard doesn't have a world championship, okay? So when he speaks about Yuki Tsunoda and he says things like he'll never be world champion, it's like, well, yeah, bro, you weren't a world champion either. So maybe have a little bit of respect, understand, like, that everyone's on their own journey and that he comes from a very different place from you, and just have some just respect for him on the same level that he's also a Formula One driver like you were. That's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. It's not that hard. But yeah, I was very angry when I heard David Coulthard's statement. So yes, Nico Hulkenberg, Kevin Magnussen, Red Bull Racing, and David Coulthard, you are sentenced to purgatory to atone for your sins on and off the track. May the gods of motorsport have mercy on your souls. After sending those devilish candidates down to purgatory, we shall now uplift a few candidates to paradise. So, Immy, who are you sending up to paradise this week?
I am sending the Ferrari strategy team to paradise this week, which it feels like an alternate timeline. 2 weeks in a row now, Ferrari strategy team are going to paradise. Who could have seen that coming? But my God, they chose to take a risk on Sunday that ended up really working out for them because everybody else committed to the two stop. Ferrari left themselves open to the possibility of doing a one stop. I mean, obviously, you can argue they had nothing to lose. McLaren had everything to lose by being in the lead. But look at that. They caught McLaren off guard. Oscar couldn't catch up, he didn't have the time. So, Forza Ferrari again.
Despite neither Charles nor Carlos being, my favorite driver, I've always considered Ferrari as like my number one team. So yeah, Forza Ferrari, it was really exciting. Praying that they can maybe get another win to sort of disprove the rumors that they just built a car for Monaco and built a car for Monza. But I'm sure they can bag another win with the season. Still got 8 races left.
I think there's something very special about Ferrari winning at Monza. So even if they did just build it for Monza, like, I can appreciate them doing that. uh, but yeah, they did a fantastic job this weekend. No one expected them to win, I don't think. I don't think any of us predicted a Ferrari win on our predictions. I could be wrong. I will double check that.
I almost predicted a Sharpie one. My gut was saying that, but I was like, no, it can't be. It won't happen. I'll throw away all my points. I should have just done it. It would have made it more interesting.
No, they did phenomenally. That was a brilliant strategy call from them. Completely caught McLaren off guard, and yeah, they got a well deserved win, and Charles Leclerc got a well deserved win. So congrats, and a very good candidate to send to paradise. Thank you very much. Kira, who are you sending to paradise?
This may be a bit of a controversial opinion and also may seem a little bit biased, but I am going to be picking Oscar for Paradise this week. I had a bit of a debate about it because originally I was thinking about other options as well, but when you look at the race that he led 2/3 of that race and was planning on leading the whole thing until he realised that Charles Leclerc was not pitting again. Nobody rediscovered that until the last 15 laps or so. Before that, he was having the most amazing race, 2 decent pit stops, didn't get undercut by anybody, kept himself right on the pace, setting fastest lap very often. I think he had a brilliant race. So yeah, I'm going to be sending him to Paradise, even despite the drama that has come out of his lap one decision.
Kira, I think that you've made a good call there. Probably quite controversial. Yes. Not everyone was happy with how Oscar behaved in the opening lap, especially. but he followed his instincts as a racing driver. I think there is obviously, and we'll discuss this a bit more later on, but there is a issue within McLaren as to who their number one driver is. And while they refuse to name a number one driver, Oscar Piastri is well within his rights to claim that position for himself.
Exactly. A lot of people like to act like what Oscar did at turn one, lap one was out of line, but it was within their rules that they've set. It was within their parameters. They were free to race. Why wouldn't Oscar race? He's a racing driver. Right, maybe the pass was a little risky, but did anything happen? No. I don't think Lando losing position to Charles was because of Oscar. So I think he was within his rights to make that pass.
I think possibly what Oscar did contribute to Lando losing a position to Charles, but again, like I don't think that's Oscar's problem. You know, he's racing.
Well, I think maybe partially, but it was just more of a Lando was caught a bit by surprise, and that led to him slowing down and then losing the position. But and granted, maybe it would have been better for Oscar to try that on lap two or whatever. But since it was within parameters at the time.
Yeah, 100%. If I were McLaren, I would have implemented team orders before the start of that race and said, Oscar, you stay behind Lando. Lando, you keep it clean and stay ahead of Oscar, and we'll take this 1-2 as a team. But McLaren didn't do that. You can't expect Oscar to play the team game when the team doesn't have a game strategy. So, 100% Oscar to paradise. I agree completely. Kira, good choice.
Thank you for seeing where I'm coming from.
I love a good race. There was some great team dynamics. I love like chaotic team dynamics. It makes racing so much more fun. And it makes McLaren look like fools for it. So, you know, their own maybe McLaren Purgatory, but Oscar Paradise. I don't know. Maybe that's a good suggestion. For my candidate to be sent to paradise, I'm choosing rookie Franco Colapinto. The Williams replacement driver did a fantastic job. He finished in P12, I believe it was, and he wasn't all that far away from Alex Albon, both in finishing position as well as the time gap between the two. He outdrove a number of drivers. He even got his first pass done on track, which was great. And for all my misgivings around the Logan Sargent situation, and as much as I might dislike James Vowles and the way he handled it, as well as Williams as a whole, I'm not going to allow that resentment that I feel towards James Vowle to color my perception of Franco Colapinto. Franco Colapinto was given an opportunity and he's risen to the occasion, and that's fantastic. Yeah, he didn't get points, but that's okay. He did a good job. He kept it clean, and there were other drivers with far more experience than him who made massive errors during the race. So I think that bodes well for his future, and I hope that he will be considered for a seat beyond 2024. I know he's just here as a temporary measure, but I think he's got a future here if he continues to drive with this level of maturity and skill. So yeah, Franco Colapinto going up to paradise.
I completely agree with you. I think Franco did all that Williams needed him to do, which was have a clean race, get to grips with the car, and he got in, I think, at least one good overtake there. So he's done exactly what was needed of him, and he's in a very good position right now.
Franco Colapinto, Oscar Piastri, Ferrari, for pleasing the gods of motorsport, you are granted entrance into paradise. Ascend. Ah. I don't know who joined in for that, but thank you. We have a couple more points from the weekend we wanted to talk about, starting with the fact that we currently have the longest streak without a safety car period in over 15 years, just overtaking the 2009 streak between Monaco and the European Grand Prix. We haven't had a full safety car since Canada. Now, this is obviously impacting on race strategy, on the ability of backmarkers to climb up the ranks and maybe get into the points. Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? What do you think, Kira?
Personally, I really like how much clean racing there's been. 7 races without a safety car period is absolutely ridiculous for Formula One. But I honestly think it's better because it gives all the drivers the best chance of, showing their potential. And with crashes, it takes drivers out who may be in contention for points. So crashes do affect the championship a lot. And I think having really clean racing for the last however many weeks, or 7 races, is really nice because it gives some people who possibly are more prone to getting involved in accidents a chance to score some more points.
Honestly, I sort of miss a level of unreliability of the cars that we don't have. While a lot of the time I feel like that would just lead to a DNF, not a safety car, there are obviously times when the car's not in a good spot to be retrieved where you need a safety car. There's just been a lack of mechanical failures, I think. And like not having crashes, not having mechanical failures, it especially affects the backmarker teams when it's not Sauber and they're the ones with the mechanical failures, but whatever. Because they don't have those opportunities really when a lot of people in top teams are taken out to get into the points and score really valuable points for their teams that can really sort of change the way the Constructors' Championship is going for them. It's just been one or two cars from midfield teams that have been able to make it into the top 10 every week, as opposed to a whole lot. We haven't had a surprise podium yet. Like we're missing stuff.
Definitely, there is an element of surprise and luck missing during this period of Formula One. The top teams all have tremendous reliability. And as you guys have stated, there's been some really clean racing, which is admirable and well done to the drivers for doing that. As much as we can applaud the drivers for driving cleanly, we are missing something in this experience now. So I would hope that, and perhaps this is an interesting talking point, Azerbaijan, Baku is coming up next. That's a tight circuit with lots of walls and not much, and like no runoff area. Do you think we're going to get a safety car in Baku?
Ooh, I'd want to check the stats on that, but it's definitely a place where you can't just go like into the gravel or onto the tarmac, and it's sort of on the circuit or in the wall. So there might be more accidents. Whether they'll happen in the race or we'll just see something in free practice, who knows?
Honestly, I think it's very unlikely that we'll get through Baku without a big crash in the race. Maybe that's a bit presumptuous, but considering how narrow the track is for a lot of it, being a street circuit, there's a very good chance that someone's going to end up in the wall. And I'm not against seeing that happen because it has been a long time. But yeah, I hope it's not the people I'm rooting for. Yeah.
Yeah, just quickly skimming the wiki from last year, there was a safety car period in the sprint and there was a safety car period in the race. So I'd say it's probably going to be happening. This streak can't go on forever.
Just want to mention quickly that Ferrari were supposed to come with this interesting special livery, but it was rather unimpressive.
It seems Ferrari at this point will never have a nice special livery. We had the Miami ones, which were so hyped to be just then they were just two stripes of blue on the car. And this week, well, I think anybody expecting them to go fully black were a bit mad because fully black at Monza. Like, it was just the car numbers. They're not even a streak, not even a line, nothing. I feel like they should just give up on special liveries because they're never special.
Ferrari seemed to not get the memo with the special liveries. I mean, if you look at Visa Cash App Red Bull in Miami, now that was a good livery. I loved that livery. I wish they kept that full time. But yeah, Ferrari just seemed to slap a stripe of a colour on the car and call it a day, and it's a bit disappointing, really.
Yes, bring back the gay car, Visa Cash App RB. Bring back the gay car. There was also a large Ferrari upgrade package. Perhaps that worked a bit better than their livery.
Yes, the Ferrari upgrade package, though on the Friday and Saturday it seemed like it didn't have much of an impact. The real goal of that upgrade package was to reduce tyre wear. And you can really see how that came in clutch to giving them the win this weekend. So the car wasn't using the tyres as much as it used to, so Charles could go for that one stop. Nobody else had that opportunity, well, apart from Carlos, but it didn't work out as well for him. So, yay for the Ferrari upgrade that worked.
Yeah, Ferrari did a great job with their upgrades. Well done, Forza Ferrari. Red Bull, not so much. They are currently tied for quali front rows this season with McLaren, which is a massive turnaround from the beginning of the year. McLaren has now basically equaled Red Bull.
To me, that says that Red Bull's strategy has been in times when they can't qualify well to come through the race and win because they have a lot more podium 1-2s than they have quali 1-2s. A lot more. It might be like one or two more, but it's more than McLaren have, that's for sure. But now that Red Bull's car isn't in the position when they can qualify third or fourth or fifth or sixth and still get into the lead, they're really losing out big time.
And then finally, Lewis Hamilton, very unhappy with his qualifying. His qualifying stats are quite shocking with regards to George Russell.
It seems that Lewis has just really lost his form in qualifying. He's currently 4:12 to George in the head to head, but he is ahead of George in the Drivers' Championship, which highlights that he's definitely still got it in the race. He's probably a bit better than George when it comes to race pace, but he's stuck behind him in qualifying and he doesn't understand why. He doesn't know what his issue is. Um, I hope that maybe come the end of the year, come the change of scenery, he'll find something that he's been missing.
I found it quite heartbreaking what Lewis said after qualifying because he was talking in the interview afterwards and he was talking about it as if he'd really let Mercedes down in that qualifying. And yes, generally this season he has lost out to George Russell a bit, but he's still doing really well. I mean, Mercedes were nowhere at the start of the season, and now they're starting to come back, starting to win races, starting to qualify well. And you, you're not going to perform well every week. I don't think it was bad enough for him to have to say that he hopes that they'll do better next season with Antonelli instead. I feel like that's a little bit far. I think he's really underselling himself.
Finally, we're going to move on to look at our predictions from last week. What did we say and how did it turn out? So, Immy, let's start with you. What were your predictions and what did you get right?
So my predictions, I predicted P1 for Lando, P2 for Oscar, P3 for Charles, and my wild card was that the winner wouldn't be on pole. And I got 4 points from that because my Oscar prediction was correct and my wild card was correct.
Congrats, Immy. Well done.
In stark contrast to my success last week, I managed to get absolutely 0 points this week. So I predicted Oscar Piastri P1, Max Verstappen P2, Charles Leclerc P3. My wild card was that there was going to be a big crash, which took out two cars. You know, it doesn't seem unreasonable, but absolutely none of that was true. So 0 points for me.
I'm going to read out Tay's predictions. She couldn't make it this week, but obviously she predicted stuff for Monza last week, and it didn't go very well for her. It was P1 Lewis Hamilton, P2 Lando Norris, and P3 Charles Leclerc, with the wild card being that safety car that we haven't had for 7 races. The safety car keeps running away from us, and that's obviously resulted in 0 points. So at least Kira isn't alone at the bottom of the pile this week.
Yay! Love that for me.
Hello. This is Uno coming to you somewhat delayed and after the fact. We decided to use new software to record our audio today, and it appears something has gone awry. Much like an F1 team with new upgrades and free practice 1, we have no idea what we are doing and everything has fallen apart. So we don't have the traditional goodbyes because we couldn't record those. But I'm just going to quickly give you my predictions from last week and tell you how badly I did. I had Lando Norris to win, Oscar Piastri in second place, and Max Verstappen in third, with my wildcard prediction being that Yuki Tsunoda would get into Q3 and finish in the points. Obviously, Lando did not win, Max did not make it to the podium, and Yuki Tsunoda had, dreadful. So the only one I got correct was Oscar in P2. So I get 3 points. Hooray. I'm finally on the board, which is very exciting. And so the final points tally for this week was Immy with 4 points. She's our winner. Kira and Tay unfortunately got 0 points. And Uno came in second with 3 points. Congratulations to everyone, most especially me, because I finally get onto the leaderboard. And that leaderboard looks like this. Kira is in first place with 7 points. Immy in second place with 5 points. Tay and Uno are in joint third position with 3 points apiece. And that's all fantastic and wonderful. And I wish I could share everyone's joy together, but it's just me all alone because something went wrong. But well done to everyone. And I look forward to our race predictions for Azerbaijan, which we will release next week. Thank you all for tuning into Traffic Paradise Radio. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure you follow us if you're listening on Spotify, or like and subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube. It looks like the road out of Monza is finally clear, so have a safe trip, and we'll see you in Baku. Bye bye! Intro music, intro music.